This, believe it or not, has come from a bar lady of the Winchester, who we would never have believed to have been a creative poet and such a great piece of art. Kerry Wilde, Anathema.
I'm Anathema. I am a poet with some work in the Freeway exhibition at Bournemouth Library. I got involved with this by going to Freeway Poets at the Winchester, which has grown even in the last 6 months that I've been going there. It's been a great inspiration for me actually. Before that, I've always written poems, but I never would have dreamt of sharing them with anybody, to be honest. It was a very private thing. But with the encouragement of the other Freeway poets, Steve Biddle in particular, dragged me up on stage, well not forcibly, but and they went down really well, and that really did encourage me and inspire me and get the old creative juices flowing, if you will. And that is how I got involved with this exhibition here. And yeah, I got some art done by a friend of mine, Too Tall Paul, who is actually a pinstriper for custom cars, but he does other work as well. We collaborated together to put these 3 poems in. I started writing poetry probably when I was about, I think my first poem I wrote at school I was about 9, and it's a silly little story really, but it's probably what put me off reading in general up until Freeway. I wrote a poem and my teacher read it and he said, "Oh, this was brilliant, it's really, really lovely. Where did you read it?" I said, "Well, you know, I just wrote it." He's like, "Yeah, I know you've just wrote it, but where did you get it from? Where did you hear it?" Not really understanding. I've just written it. And he wouldn't have it. He was convinced. I knew I'd written it because I had to get a thesaurus for a couple of words and my spelling was terrible. So if I'd read it somewhere, then I probably would have spelled it a bit better. And he was absolutely in awe, and he made me stand up in front of the entire school in assembly and read this poem, and then he read it. And apparently, I didn't realise this, but apparently he had it framed and put in his office, bless him. But that kind of really put me off sharing poetry. I was like, oh my God, no, I can't cope with this kind of exposure in front of all these other kids, because writing poetry is not that cool when you're 9, to be fair. But I always tinkered. Inspiration comes from here, there, everywhere. I'm very empathic, so I tend to write about other people's emotions. That, you know, if I watch a particularly emotional film, or if someone around me has a particularly emotional experience, then that tends to inspire me to write. Yeah, Ocean View was written about the view from my balcony, basically. I've lived in Southbourne for 5 years, and I've sat and stared over the Purbeck and the sea many, many times, and that's one of probably about 30 poems that I've written on the same theme, and that's one of the longer ones, which is probably why I chose it for this exhibition. Comfort is a poem that I wrote quite a few years ago now. I actually did have a little pink rabbit. He was my cuddly toy in all my pictures when I was like a newborn, and he was all round and fluffy, and I've still got him now, and he's tailless and he's got one eye, and yeah, he's my toy, so he kind of inspired that, because I think there's a childhood kind of memory. He's one of the things that takes me back to a lot of places because he was always there. And I came to the thought of passing him on maybe to my children if I have any, which I haven't actually currently got. And that would be a lovely thing to see my childhood toy with my daughter or son. He didn't look quite like this, he didn't have arms and legs, but that was inspired entirely by that poem for me from Too Tall, so I was really pleased with that. And then Pixie Dances. I've always had a bit of a fascination with fairies and pixies. I've got a lot of tattoos of fairies, and I love the whole fairy secret garden and that kind of thing, so that was kind of inspired by that. And again, he drew that based entirely on the poem. He just wanted it to be just an outline, so you couldn't necessarily see what it was until you read the poetry, and then it became apparent. Down in the forest she giggles and prances, shaking her hair, her pixie dances, bluebells as hats and clover as skirts, swings made of petals and cobwebs as shirts, singing of mischief and sprinkling magic, that we all cannot see her is terribly tragic. She visits our children in whom she believes, and teaches them shyly how they can achieve the magic and wonder that exists all around. If only we'd listen, it still could be found. But grow up we do, and gain all our fears, show her no heed with the advancing of years. She doesn't care though, she carries on laughing, flying in storms and dancing on lightning. The beauty of nature, on this she'll take chances, with giggles and prances and her pixie dances.
Photos by myself, so Freeways really have been very kind with us. Got a piece I've written about Freeways, where I once listened to the radio and all the poetry was happening up north, but now here we are at Freeways, and all of which you can find on Louise's binded poetry page. The pictures spell a word, Raymond Antibus, Girlfriend's Fest. Mark Berry's soft spoken word goes something like this.
We've got Steve Biddle here, and we've got Mark Berry to talk about freeway poetry at the Winchester pub. So, how did this come about?
It came about because I've always wanted to do a poetry night, and we did do a couple of versions of a poetry night, and it never really captured anyone's imagination. And then Louise Keeley put her particular magic to it and said, why don't you... She started looking at some of the spoken word artists in London, and we were looking more at classic poetry and the great sort of history and tradition of poetry and the beauty of words. And Louise kind of had an idea to she said, why don't we bring these guys down from London? Look at this guy. And she showed me guys that she'd found online that were doing the poetry circuit in London, which is very vibrant. And so Louise really sort of introduced this element, created this night Freeway out of a lot of our conversations and that. And the fact that we wanted a poetry night, because I love poetry and I love words, and there was an opportunity to do it, that nobody was doing it. And because we had such a passion for it, we felt, we'd take the chance, do it. We'd do it on a midweek night when it wasn't going to threaten, because running a business, poetry's not known as a big money spinner. Not that it's all about money, but you need to have the things that pay the bills, then the things you're passionate about. So we did Freeway on a sort of sleepy Wednesday night, and out of that grew this sort of, it's really about a bunch of people coming together. With Louise introducing the spoken word guests, we had a format where we had the guests, and then we thought, well, we'll do an open mic session, because originally it was like you could do your favourite poets, if you like, W.B. Yeats or, Shakespeare or Ted Hughes or whoever, and you could get up and read their poems, which we did in the early poetry nights. But then what was apparent was there was so many people with so much to say, and so we created the open mic forum. You're free to do what you want. You had 5 minutes, because some people do ramble, so we kept it to 5. Yeah. But out of that, you see you all started at 5-minute slots, and then you were invited to do guest slots. So out of that, we created the open mic forum. Then we do the guest slot later, and the guests were attracting a lot of attention from people who wouldn't normally go to poetry nights. And then a lot of the other people who wanted to go to the poetry night and get up and express themselves were getting the chance. And a lot of them very nervously at first, but that's really how it started. And I think it's gained momentum, because everyone involved really, they care about it, and it's really enjoyable. And so many people say to me, oh, poetry night, not now, but in the beginning, oh, you're on poetry, oh, woe is me, and all this. And they go and they're like, wow, that's just not what I expected, because it's not just, people, moaning, and it's often social commentary, it's often very funny, it's often heartache or things that you can all relate to. So it hit a real chord, and I think that's why it's grown. And also because the group of people who've come together on it, it has become a family, essentially. I think so. And
you've got to get there early.
Got to get there early to get up.
You're not going to get in either.
It's no longer really a sleepy Wednesday night, is it?
No, and it's in a sense it's quite remarkable, because the other thing about the Wednesday was, well, we thought we'd only get students really, because most people have got 9 to 5s and it's a school night. But it's amazing that we haven't had to rely on the student market in Bournemouth to grow Freeway. It's come out of real people. I know students are real people, but it has come out of the, the real people who, want to express themselves and love poetry.
I speak to a lot of people, and they've come a long way. Some people in Portsmouth.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I actually spoke to them who come to Dover, heard it from Facebook, and they travelled down from Dover, Exeter.
Yeah.
Like the London people were always really surprised at just how good and how involved Bournemouth is and has become. And if you're not in there early,
you don't get up.
Yeah, it's not so much getting up, but it's getting really busy. It's getting, it's because and towards the end of the night, a few of us get drunk and we have to be sort of
shh. Pub has always been a sort of social gathering place through the history of time. It started as a campfire. Then the pub's like the sort of modern version of the campfire, and that's the lovely thing about the Winchester, getting people to come and gather. They drink, they tell stories, they talk to each other, they perform. And what surprised me is I can't believe that you weren't doing this before, because in the it's over 12 months now. It was
15, 16.
Yeah, 15, 16 months. Yeah. You seem like you've been doing it. All your life.
Yeah, no, never dreamt of getting up and doing poetry, and through Louise, and Louise invited me down, and I met Sean Street. Sean Street, I think, was one of the first.
Yeah, one of the first guests.
Bag Lady Jane was one of the first people to get up, and really nervously, I thought, well, I've got some lyrics of some songs. Let's just try them as a poem. Let's just forget the choruses, forget musical content, and just go with the flow. And they worked all right, and then just build on them, and then put them together, and they sort of come up with an 8 minute sort of ramble.
And it led to your book, and that led you in other directions.
I had done performing, but there was nothing in Bournemouth apart from this for me to carry on my performance with. I don't think I would have. Freeway is my favourite venue. It's the friendliest venue. It's the venue at which I have most friends, and it's what infused me enough to carry it on and to really try to
help you develop.
Yes, to help me develop from a page poet who occasionally spoke at poetry events to somebody who was going to try to develop into a performance poet. So yes, Freeway is what I write for a lot of the time, because you have themes, you have a lot of people expecting you to interact with those themes. It's like a monthly parlour game, a very artistic monthly parlour game.
There's actually a poem on the wall behind us that 6 months at Freeway I thought I'd put up. At that 6 month point, it was like the first sort of half birthday, and in 6 months it had come on so much.
Yeah.
And I believe you're going to be doing a lot more of your own poetry for us, Mark.
Yeah, maybe. What I find is that there's so many people with so much to say.
Yeah.
I don't mind stepping off and watching the other people, but that find it kind of handy because I'm maybe shy or whatever. But more importantly for me is when I'm going around getting so many people, can I get up? Can I get up? And I just don't want to, I just want to get as many people up there and get them. It's interesting that first people were very timid and very. Well, let me sit back and watch it for a while, and now people are like, "Oi, mate, I want to get up. When can I go up?"
People leap on you.
Yeah, they pounce on me. So, and that's been another liberating thing to see people grow in confidence and have a more sort of determination and more performance skills. A lot of people. You look at Louise, who performed last time with the double bass, and you look at a lot of the poets yourself, Carrie. You've always been very theatrical. One of the first things when I think, who can I put next Carrie? Let's get a bit of theatre up there and a perfect elocution, and a touch of glamour. It's all part of the show, and I think everyone's developed. Like you have a sort of performance, more poise about you, more in control. And before, in the beginning, I think everyone was kind of just being shoved along by nerves, and now you stop the clock a bit and say, right, I'm going to say this poem how I mean it, and that's been really exciting to see people develop as performance poets.
It's a real space now, a space that you can, for your 5 minutes, inhabit in the full knowledge that everybody else sort of means you well.
I think that's another really good point about Freeway, is the amazing warmth of the room and the amazing. It's amazing that people come out and support poetry for a start. I think I end up saying this every time, thanking the people for coming out on a Wednesday night and sticking with it and supporting it, and listening to all the poets and being so supportive. You don't get hecklers. If you do, they soon know and they get out of the room, because it's a very strong, caring audience there, and supportive of the people who have the guts to go up on stage. I think it's because a lot of the people understand that, because a lot of people there love poetry and know how hard it is to get up on stage.